What's up, guys, and welcome to day one of 30 Days of Remembrance. Today's first topic is who are you and what creates all suffering? So, the first understanding is who are you, right? One of the age old questions that the sages and philosophers have been asking for thousands of years. Well, you are a reflection of God. Sounds simple, and there's many overarching kind of blanket statements in the metaphysical spiritual community, and when we actually understand what they mean and what they imply, these ideas actually give us a clear instruction manual. So that's what I'm going to talk about. So you're a reflection of all that is. Well, let's start before that. Before, in a sense, from a linear time-space perspective, which is really how we understand things. Before all that is, before God, right? In physics, they say the Big Bang happened, and a term or a phrase that was popularized said, all things came from nothing. Well, what is nothing? Nothing, if you break it apart, is no thing. And it's like they said, I believe it was in the New Testament, they said, at first there was the Word. Well, what is the Word but a single sound? It wasn't words with an S, it was word, just a single sound. And if it's just a single sound, then if there's no other, nothing outside, nothing to create any contrast, well, how would that sound, that thing, be aware of itself? It'd be like you being in a white room and have white light in all directions. You wouldn't even know you were you because there was no other person. There was no sense of contrast to say, that's you, this must be me. And so in a sense, before consciousness, all that is, God, everything we see and experience in the physical and non-physical worlds was created. And remember, I'm just putting this into a story so we can understand it. There was nothing or no thing, or in a more accurately described way, there was no reflection. That's why it said word. That's why it was written that God, at first there was the word. And then God said, let there be light. What is light but a reflection? We can't see light unless it's reflecting off of something. Darkness, therefore, isn't color. It's an absence of light. It's an absence of reflection. And so we went from no reflection, no self-awareness, no thing, to reflection, consciousness, self-awareness, which is essentially all that is, or the one, using reflection to create a sense of contrast, a sense of I'm over here, you're over here, a sense of separation to know itself, to have self-awareness. The term self-awareness can be akin to consciousness. And so what is everything we see? Well, it's consciousness. And it all actually exudes and expresses some form of consciousness. Even rocks have a form of self-awareness. And so, what does that have to do with who are we and what are we? We are aspects of all that is. We are all that is, having an experience of a separate part of all that is, experiencing itself from a new point of view that has forgotten its totality, that has forgotten its source, that has forgotten it is all things. So we can go through the process of remembering, the process of creating a new sense of self from a new perspective. And that, in a sense, is the purpose of God. Well, God's only attribute is just to be. It's just to be all that is. And in being all that is, we have the opportunity to know who we are, to learn about who we are as an aspect of God, as an aspect of all that is. That is called, in two words, know thyself. And you could say that is the essence of our being, to know thyself, to understand this aspect of God through Brandon, through you. And so who are you? You are all that is, having an experience of being separate from all that is, so you can remember that you're not separate. And that's who and what you are. And you feel, and the attribute of what most people would consider an enlightened master is someone that feels a sense of that oneness all the time. Oneness is felt and translated in the body as unconditional love, meaning there's nothing that I invalidate, push away, judge, or separate or segregate. I am one. I experience myself as all things, as together with all things in unconditional love. And so when we're experiencing that oneness feeling, the knowing of who and what we are, that everything outside of us is not really outside of us, and it is also who and what we are. It is reflections of a different aspect of ourself, a different reflection of God in which we are. We're not just the sun beam, we're the sun and the sunbeam. We're not just a wave in the ocean, we're the ocean experiencing itself as the wave. That point of view, when you're expressing that point of view, that feels like unconditional love, acceptance, allowance of what is, a sense and a feeling of oneness. All suffering is created when we forget who we are. All suffering is created when we forget who we are by choosing the mechanism we've created that causes forgetfulness, and it's called fear. So when we choose fear over love, we get forgetfulness. This is why those that choose fear, even yourself, especially including yourself, it's not an appropriate response to judge. There's nothing wrong with judging, but that's not a solution to make it wrong or bad, which we've been taught so much. Fear, ego, all these things are wrong or bad. Good vibes only, right? But it's to understand that, I must have forgot. And so, of course, I'm innocent because I just forgot. I'm not a bad person. I'm not evil. I'm not wrong or bad. I forgot who I was. They forgot who they were. And so to remind them who they were, I'll allow them to be as they are. I'll love them anyway. I'll love myself anyway. I'll be okay with not being my full self. When we are okay not being the God self, the one self, the unconditionally loving self, the fully connected to our self, when we are okay with not being that, we actually collapse the resistance and the expectation and the insistence that we need to be that to be okay with who we are. And that actually lengthens our process. So remember, we chose to have a physical experience. We chose to focus our consciousness in this way to forget who we are, which is all that is, right? Which is the reflection. When the one decided, I want to know myself, and created infinite reflections and is infinitely knowing itself in all possible ways it can, you were chosen to be one of those people, one of those perspectives, one of those reflections. And so without you, the entire universe would be incomplete. The fact that you exist is all the proof and evidence that you need to know you're worthy, to know that you've been chosen, to know that you're here for a reason, and that reason is important, because creation doesn't make mistakes. Think about this logically. If creation is everything that's created, how can it make a mistake? Because by definition, a mistake would be something that wasn't meant to be created, but it was created, and so it must have meant to be created. So creation can't make mistakes. You're not a mistake. But you may have forgotten this idea and sometimes thinks, maybe I'm an outcast, maybe I'm not worthy, all these sort of things. It's the essence of forgiveness and letting go of the fear, which we're going to talk about over the next 30 days, that will bring you back into remembrance, back into who you are. And when you choose forgiveness, which is synonymous to saying choosing love, then you're returning to that untouchable, unchangeable, indestructible sense of self. And so that's who you are. And let that resonance in your body be proof of your remembrance. And when you find yourself buying into the fear, choosing negativity, choosing judgment, whatever it may be, know that you deserve forgetfulness and that you're innocent. And in that moment that you may have, quote unquote, made a mistake, that you can learn from it, that you can take something positive. And if you don't resist the process that you chose to experience, you didn't come here to just instantly become an enlightened master. You chose to have a process of remembrance. The more you can lighten up on yourself, and enjoy and have fun with your process, the faster it will go. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and have a great day.